Dr. Sarah Chen yawned as she stared at the computer screen. The night shift at the SETI Institute was usually quiet, but tonight felt especially dull. She sipped her cold coffee, grimacing at the bitter taste. Her eyes darted between multiple monitors, each displaying different data streams from various deep space radio telescopes. Suddenly, a sharp beep cut through the silence. Sarah sat up straight, her tiredness vanishing in an instant. One of the screens was flashing red, indicating an unusual signal. Her heart raced as she began to analyze the data. "This can't be right," she muttered, her fingers flying over the keyboard. The signal was unlike anything she had ever seen before. It was too structured to be natural, too complex to be from any known human source. As she dug deeper, her eyes widened in disbelief. Sarah reached for her phone with shaking hands. "Director Thompson, you need to come see this. Now." Within an hour, the control room was buzzing with activity. Scientists and researchers huddled around Sarah's workstation, their faces a mix of excitement and disbelief. Director Thompson, a tall man with graying hair, stood behind Sarah, his usually calm demeanor replaced by visible tension. "Are you absolutely sure about this, Dr. Chen?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Sarah nodded, her eyes never leaving the screen. "Yes, sir. I've run every test we have. This signal, it's not from Earth. And it's not random. It's a message." A hush fell over the room. The implications of her words were staggering. After decades of searching, they had finally found proof of intelligent alien life. But that wasn't all. "There's more," Sarah continued, her voice shaking slightly. "We've managed to decode part of the message. It's a distress call." Director Thompson's eyebrows shot up. "A distress call? From aliens?" Sarah nodded again. "Yes, sir. From what we can understand, there's an alien fleet trapped in some kind of dangerous situation. And they're asking for our help." The room erupted in a cacophony of voices. Some scientists were ecstatic, others skeptical, and a few looked downright terrified. Director Thompson raised his hands, calling for silence. "Dr. Chen, can you tell us more about this fleet? What kind of danger are they in?" Sarah turned back to her computer, pulling up more data. "The message is complex, sir. We're still working on translating all of it. But from what we can gather, their fleet is trapped in some kind of spatial anomaly. Their technology isn't working properly, and they can't escape on their own." One of the other scientists spoke up. "But why ask us for help? Surely their technology must be far more advanced than ours." Sarah shook her head. "That's the thing. The message specifically mentions Earth. They say our unique approach to physics might be the key to their rescue." The room fell silent again as everyone processed this information. Humans, with their relatively primitive technology, were being called upon to save an advanced alien civilization. It seemed impossible, yet the evidence was right there on the screen. Director Thompson took a deep breath. "All right, people. We need to verify this data immediately. Run every test we have, then run them again. Dr. Chen, I want you to lead a team to work on fully decoding this message. We need to know everything: who they are, where they are, and exactly what kind of help they need." He paused, looking around the room. "And not a word of this leaves this building, understood? The last thing we need is a global panic. If this turns out to be real, well, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it." As the room burst into action, Sarah felt a mix of excitement and fear. She had always dreamed of making first contact, but never like this. As she gathered her team and prepared to dive deeper into the alien message, one thought kept running through her mind. How on earth were they going to pull this off? Outside the SETI Institute, the world continued as normal, unaware that everything was about to change. In the coming days, humanity would face its greatest challenge and its greatest opportunity. The stars had called, and Earth would answer. The news spread like wildfire through the highest levels of government. Within 48 hours of Dr. Sarah Chen's discovery, World leaders gathered for an emergency video conference. The atmosphere was tense as they discussed the alien distress call. President Maria Alvarez of the United States looked grave as she addressed her colleagues. "Ladies and gentlemen, we face an unprecedented situation. An alien civilization has reached out to us for help. We must decide how to respond." The Russian president, Alexei Volkov, frowned. "How do we know this isn't a trap? These aliens could be luring us into danger." "That's a risk we must consider," agreed Prime Minister Yuki Tanaka of Japan. "But we cannot ignore a cry for help, even if it comes from the stars." As the debate raged on, Dr. Chen and her team worked tirelessly to decode more of the alien message. They sent their findings to the world leaders in real time. "We've learned more about their situation," Dr. Chen reported via video link. "The aliens call themselves the Zarkon. Their fleet of 50 ships is trapped in a region of space they call the Void. It's some kind of anomaly that's disrupting their technology." The Chinese premier, Lai Mei, leaned forward. "And why do they think we can help?" Dr. Chen took a deep breath. "The Zarkon have been observing Earth for centuries. They say our primitive approach to physics might be the key to their rescue. Our technology isn't advanced enough to be affected by the Void." This revelation sent shockwaves through the conference. The idea that Earth's less advanced technology could be an advantage was both exciting and terrifying. The debate continued for hours. Some leaders saw it as an opportunity to advance human knowledge and forge interstellar alliances. Others feared it could lead to Earth's destruction or colonization. As the arguments went back and forth, an unexpected voice spoke up. It was Dr. Kwame Osai, a renowned physicist from Ghana who had been invited as an advisor. "Leaders of the world," he said, his voice calm but firm. "I understand your fears. But consider this. If we turn our backs on the Zarkon, what does that say about us as a species? We have an opportunity not just to save lives, but to show the universe the best of humanity." His words seemed to shift the mood of the conference. One by one, leaders began to voice their support for a rescue mission. Finally, President Alvarez called for a vote. "All in favor of sending a mission to aid the Zarkon? Raise your hands." Slowly but surely, hands went up across the screens. It wasn't unanimous, but it was a clear majority. "Then it's decided," Alvarez declared. "We will answer the Zarkon's call for help." The next few hours were a flurry of activity as the leaders hammered out the details of their plan. They agreed to form an international task force, pooling their best scientists, engineers, and astronauts. Dr. Chen was appointed as the chief science officer of the mission. As the conference drew to a close, she addressed the world leaders one last time. "Thank you for this decision," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "I know it wasn't easy, but I believe we're doing the right thing. We'll need to work faster and more efficiently than ever before." The Zarkon's message suggests they don't have much time. President Alvarez nodded. "Dr. Chen, you and your team have the full support of Earth's governments. Whatever you need, you'll have." As the conference ended, the enormity of the task ahead began to sink in. Humanity was about to embark on its greatest journey yet, venturing into the unknown to save an alien race. Across the globe, select individuals received highly classified messages. Engineers were called to design a spacecraft capable of interstellar travel. Astronauts were summoned for a mission like no other. And in labs around the world, scientists began working around the clock to understand the physics of the mysterious void. The world held its breath, unaware of the monumental decision that had been made. For now, the rescue mission remained a secret, but soon, humanity would have to come to terms with the fact that they were no longer alone in the universe. As night fell, Dr. Chen stared out of her office window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Zarkon were waiting, hoping that their call for help would be answered. "We're coming," she whispered to the sky. "Hold on." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Hidden from the public eye, the world's best minds worked tirelessly to prepare for humanity's most ambitious mission yet. At NASA's Johnson Space Center, a special facility had been set up for the international team. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the center of a bustling room, surrounded by holographic displays showing ship designs and star charts. "We need to push the engines further," she told a group of engineers. "The Zarkon are over 20 light-years away. We need to get there fast." One of the engineers, a young woman named Aisha Patel, spoke up. "Dr. Chen, we've been working on a new propulsion system. It's risky, but it could get us there in months instead of years." Sarah's eyes lit up. "Show me." As Aisha explained the new technology, combining ion propulsion with a theoretical faster-than-light drive, Sarah felt a glimmer of hope. It was incredibly advanced and untested, but they had no choice. Time was running out for the Zarkon. Meanwhile, in a high-security training facility, astronauts from around the world were pushing themselves to the limit. Commander Jack Harper, a veteran of 3 space missions, watched as his team ran through zero-gravity drills. "Faster," he shouted. "The void won't wait for us to catch our breath." His second-in-command, Russian cosmonaut Yelena Volkova, floated up to him. "The team is exhausted, Jack. We've been at this for 18 hours straight." Jack sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. "I know, Yelena, but we have to be ready for anything. We're not just representing Earth now. We're representing all of humanity to an alien race." As the days turned into weeks, progress was made at an astonishing pace. The new ship, christened Hope, took shape in a secret orbital shipyard. It was unlike anything humanity had ever built before, a perfect blend of existing technology and theoretical science. Dr. Kwame Osei, the physicist whose words had swayed the world leaders, worked day and night to understand the nature of the void. He pored over the Zarkon's messages, trying to decipher the physics behind the anomaly. One night, as he stared at his equations, something clicked. He rushed to find Dr. Chen, nearly crashing into her in the hallway. "Sarah," he exclaimed, his eyes wide with excitement. "I think I've figured it out. The void, it's not just a spatial anomaly. It's a tear in the fabric of space-time itself." Sarah's jaw dropped. "Are you sure? How is that even possible?" Kwame shook his head. "I don't know how it formed, but I'm certain that's what we're dealing with. And I think I know how we can navigate it." As the launch date approached, tension mounted. The world's governments had finally agreed to reveal the truth to the public. The announcement was met with a mix of fear, excitement, and disbelief. Protests erupted in some cities, with people demanding the mission be scrapped. Others held vigils, praying for the success of the brave crew. The world was divided, but united in its awe of what was about to happen. Finally, the day of launch arrived. At Cape Canaveral, now bustling with activity not seen since the days of the Apollo missions, the crew of Hope prepared to board. Commander Harper looked at his team. There was Yelena, his steadfast second-in-command. Dr. Chen, whose brilliant mind had made this all possible. Aisha, the young engineer whose propulsion system would carry them across the stars. And a dozen others, each the best in their field. "This is it," he said, his voice solemn. "What we do today will be remembered for generations. We carry with us the hopes and dreams of not just Earth, but of the Zarkon as well. Whatever happens out there, I'm proud to be taking this journey with all of you." As they boarded the ship, a hush fell over the launch site. Millions around the world watched on screens, holding their breath. In the control room, Dr. Osei crossed his fingers, praying his calculations were correct. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. Inside Hope, the crew strapped themselves in, exchanging nervous glances. 7, 6, 5. Sarah closed her eyes, thinking of the Zarkon waiting for them across the vast expanse of space. 4, 3, 2. Commander Harper gripped his controls, his heart pounding. 1. With a roar that seemed to shake the entire planet, Hope lifted off. Humanity's greatest adventure had begun. As the ship broke free of Earth's atmosphere and set course for the stars, one thought echoed through the minds of every crew member. There was no turning back now. The vastness of space stretched out before the crew of Hope as they journeyed towards the trapped Zarkon fleet. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The initial excitement of the mission gave way to the monotony of long-distance space travel, punctuated by moments of intense activity and danger. Commander Jack Harper stood on the bridge, gazing at the unfamiliar stars. "Status report," he called out, his voice steady despite the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Yelena Volkova, his second-in-command, responded promptly. "All systems nominal. Commander, we're on course and on schedule." Dr. Sarah Chen floated into the bridge, her face a mix of excitement and concern. "Commander, I've been analyzing the latest data from the long-range sensors. We're picking up some strange readings ahead." Jack frowned. "What kind of readings?" Sarah pulled up a holographic display. "It's like nothing we've ever seen before. Massive energy fluctuations, spatial distortions. I think we're detecting the edge of the void." The crew gathered around the display, their faces illuminated by the eerie glow of the hologram. The void appeared as a swirling mass of colors and shapes that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Aisha Patel, the young engineer responsible for the ship's revolutionary propulsion system, spoke up. "The engines are holding steady, but these distortions could affect our navigation. We need to be careful." Jack nodded grimly. "All right, let's run a full systems check. I want everyone at their stations. We're going in." As Hope approached the edge of the void, the ship began to shudder. Alarms blared throughout the vessel, and the crew scrambled to maintain control. "Gravitational forces are off the charts," Yelena shouted over the noise. "The hull is under immense strain." Jack gripped his command chair tightly. "Aisha, we need more power to the structural integrity field." Aisha's fingers flew over her console. "I'm giving it all she's got, Commander. But the laws of physics seem to be breaking down around us." Suddenly, a blinding flash of light engulfed the ship. When it faded, the crew found themselves in a realm that defied description. Colors they had never seen before swirled around the ship. Shapes that shouldn't exist in three-dimensional space flickered in and out of existence. "Where are we?" Jack whispered, awe and fear mixing in his voice. Sarah stared at her readings in disbelief. "We're inside the void, but it's not empty at all. It's a whole other realm of existence." As the crew tried to make sense of their surroundings, a new challenge presented itself. Communication with Earth became increasingly difficult, the signals distorted by the strange properties of the void. "We're on our own now," Jack announced to the crew. "Whatever happens from here on out, we face it together." Days passed as Hope navigated the mind-bending landscape of the void. The crew worked tirelessly, adapting their equipment and strategies to the ever-changing environment. One evening, as the ship's day cycle wound down, Jack found Sarah in the observation deck, staring out at the impossible vista before them. "Penny for your thoughts, Doctor," he asked, floating up beside her. Sarah sighed. "I'm scared, Jack. We're so far from home, in a place we don't understand, trying to save a species we've never even met. What if we fail?" Jack placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Then we fail knowing we did everything we could, but I don't think we will fail. Look at what we've accomplished already. We've traveled farther than any humans in history. We've entered a realm that defies our understanding of the universe, and we're still going." Sarah managed a small smile. "You're right. It's just overwhelming sometimes." "It is," Jack agreed. "But that's why we're here, to face the overwhelming and make it manageable, to explore the unknown and make it known." Their conversation was interrupted by Yelena's voice over the intercom. "Commander, Doctor, you need to see this." They rushed to the bridge, where the rest of the crew was already gathered. On the main screen, a sight that took their breath away. In the distance, barely visible through the swirling chaos of the void, was a cluster of ships. "Is that?" Jack began. Sarah nodded, her eyes wide. It's them. The Zarkon fleet. A mixture of relief and apprehension swept through the crew. They had found the aliens, but the real challenge was just beginning. As Hope moved closer to the stranded fleet, one question burned in everyone's minds. How were they going to rescue an entire alien civilization from the clutches of the void? The next phase of their mission was about to begin, and the fate of two species hung in the balance. The crew of Hope watched in awe as they approached the Zarkon fleet. 50 massive ships hung suspended in the swirling chaos of the void, their sleek designs unlike anything humans had ever created. Commander Jack Harper's voice was steady as he gave orders. Slow our approach. Let's not startle them. Dr. Sarah Chen worked furiously at her console. I'm trying to establish communication, but the void is interfering with our signals. Suddenly, a beam of light shot out from the lead Zarkon ship, enveloping Hope in a soft, pulsating glow. What's happening? Yelena asked, her hand hovering over the weapon's controls. Wait, Sarah said, her eyes fixed on her readings. I think they're scanning us. The light vanished as quickly as it had appeared. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then, a voice filled the bridge, a voice that was clearly not human. Greetings, beings of Earth, it said in perfect, albeit slightly mechanical, English. We are the Zarkon. We welcome you to our temporary prison. The crew exchanged looks of shock and excitement. First contact had been made. Jack cleared his throat. This is Commander Jack Harper of the Earth ship Hope. We received your distress call, and we're here to help. There was a pause before the Zarkon responded. Your arrival fills us with joy. Is that the right word? We have observed your species for so long, yet meeting you surpasses all our expectations. Sarah stepped forward. We're honored to meet you as well. Can you tell us more about your situation? How can we help? The voice took on a more somber tone. Our situation is dire. The void traps us, draining our energy and distorting our technology. We have been stranded here for what you would call 5 Earth years. The crew listened intently as the Zarkon explained their plight. The alien ships were slowly being torn apart by the forces of the void, and their power supplies were nearly depleted. But how can we help? Aisha asked. Our technology is far less advanced than yours. Precisely, the Zarkon replied. Your primitive technology is unaffected by the void's distortions. It may be our only hope of escape. Jack nodded. We'll do everything we can. Can we come aboard your ship to discuss this further? There was a long pause. We apologize, the Zarkon finally said. In our current state, we cannot safely bring you aboard, but we can send a representative to your vessel, if you'll allow it. The crew looked to Jack, who nodded his agreement. We would be honored, he said. What happened next left the humans speechless. A point of light appeared in the center of the bridge, swirling and expanding until it formed into a vaguely humanoid shape. The being that stood before them was tall and slender, with iridescent skin that seemed to shift colors in the light. Its large, almond-shaped eyes regarded the humans with curiosity. Greetings, it said, its voice now coming directly from the creature. I am Zalcor, lead scientist of the Zarkon fleet. Sarah stepped forward, her hand outstretched in greeting. It's incredible to meet you, Zalcor. I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, chief scientist of this mission. Zalcor looked at Sarah's hand curiously before extending its own limb, mimicking the gesture. The pleasure is mine, Dr. Chen. Your journey here is a testament to your species' determination and bravery. As the initial shock wore off, the humans and Zalcor began to discuss the situation in earnest. The aliens' knowledge was vast, but the unique properties of the void had rendered much of it useless. The Zarkon's advanced technology, which relied heavily on quantum mechanics, was being disrupted by the chaotic nature of their prison. Our hope, Zalcor explained, is that your more straightforward approach to physics might provide a solution we cannot see. The implications of this statement were not lost on the crew. Humanity, long considered a young and inexperienced species, might hold the key to saving an advanced civilization. As the discussions continued, a sense of urgency grew. The void was becoming more unstable, and time was running out for both the Zarkon and the human rescuers. Jack looked around at his crew, seeing determination in their eyes. "All right," he said, "let's get to work. We got an alien fleet to save." With that, humans and Zarkon began their collaboration. Two species united in their fight against the incomprehensible forces of the void. The rescue operation was about to begin, and the fate of both civilizations hung in the balance. The next few days aboard Hope were a flurry of activity. Humans and Zarkon worked side by side, combining their knowledge and skills in a desperate attempt to find a way out of the void. Dr. Sarah Chen and Zalcor huddled over a holographic display, discussing complex equations and theories. Despite their vastly different backgrounds, they found common ground in their love for science. "If we can create a resonance frequency that matches the void's energy signature," Sarah suggested, her eyes bright with excitement, "we might be able to open a temporary rift." Zalcor's iridescent skin shimmered as it considered the idea. "Fascinating. Our own attempts at manipulating the void's energy have failed, but your approach, it just might work." Meanwhile, Aisha Patel worked tirelessly to modify Hope's engines. Her task was to amplify their power output to levels never before achieved by human technology. Commander Jack Harper watched her work, amazed by her dedication. "How's it coming, Aisha?" he asked. Wiping sweat from her brow, Aisha looked up from the tangle of wires and circuits. "It's challenging, Commander. We're pushing these engines way beyond their design limits, but I think I can make it work." As the humans worked on their ship, the Zarkon were making preparations of their own. They were gathering what little energy they had left, ready to channel it into the humans' plan when the time came. However, not everything was going smoothly. The void's strange properties were taking a toll on both the human and Zarkon crews. People reported strange dreams and hallucinations. Equipment malfunctioned in unpredictable ways. One day, as Yelena was running diagnostics on the ship's systems, alarms suddenly blared throughout Hope. "Commander," she shouted, "we've got a problem. The void, it's destabilizing." Jack rushed to the bridge, with Sarah and Zalcor close behind. The view outside was terrifying. The swirling colors of the void were becoming more violent, with streaks of dark energy lashing out at the ships. "The void is collapsing in on itself," Zalcor explained, its normally calm voice tinged with fear. "If we don't act soon, we'll all be crushed." Jack's face was grim as he turned to his crew. "Looks like we're out of time. We need to make our move now. Are we ready?" Sarah and Aisha exchanged glances. "As ready as we'll ever be," Sarah said. "Then let's do this," Jack ordered. "Aisha, fire up the engines. Sarah, Zalcor, start your resonance sequence. Yelena, keep us steady." The crew sprang into action. Aisha's modified engines roared to life, their power causing the entire ship to vibrate. Sarah and Zalcor worked in perfect sync, their fingers dancing over the controls as they initiated their plan. A beam of energy shot out from Hope, meeting similar beams from the Zarkon ships. Where they intersected, the fabric of the void began to ripple and tear. "It's working," Sarah exclaimed. "We're creating a rift." But their success was short-lived. The rift began to fluctuate wildly, threatening to close. "We need more power," Zalcor shouted. Aisha's voice came over the intercom, strained and worried. "The engines are at maximum. Any more, and they'll blow." Jack made a split-second decision. "Divert power from life support if you have to. We've got one shot at this." As Aisha rerouted power, the ship's lights dimmed, and the air grew thin. The crew gasped for breath, but they didn't falter. The energy beams intensified, and slowly, agonizingly, the rift began to stabilize. "We've done it," Zalcor said, its voice filled with awe. We've opened a way out. But their ordeal wasn't over yet. The void, as if sensing its prey escaping, lashed out with tendrils of dark energy. Ships from both fleets were struck, alarms blaring across the vacuum of space. We need to move now, Jack ordered. Yelena, guide us through. Zalcor, tell your people to follow our lead. With skill born of desperation, Yelena piloted Hope towards the rift. The Zarkon ships fell into formation behind them, following the path of their human saviors. As they approached the rift, the forces pulling at the ships intensified. Metal groaned and systems sparked. Everyone held on for dear life as Hope plunged into the swirling vortex of energy. For a moment, chaos reigned. The ship spun and tumbled, buffeted by forces beyond comprehension. Then suddenly, everything went quiet. Slowly, the crew of Hope opened their eyes. Through the view screen, they saw not the maddening colors of the void, but the steady light of distant stars. They had made it. Against all odds, humans and Zarkon together had escaped the void. As cheers erupted across both fleets, Jack allowed himself a small smile. They had done the impossible. But as he looked at the battered ships around him, he knew their journey was far from over. The real challenge of bringing two vastly different civilizations together was just beginning. The vastness of normal space greeted the combined human and Zarkon fleet as they emerged from the rift. For a moment, there was silence across all communication channels as both species took in their newfound freedom. Commander Jack Harper was the first to break the silence. "Status report," he called out, his voice hoarse from the ordeal. Yelena, her hands still gripping the controls tightly, responded, "We're clear of the void, Commander. All systems functioning, though we've taken some damage." Dr. Sarah Chen looked up from her console, her eyes wide with disbelief and joy. "We did it," she whispered. "We actually did it." Zalcor, the Zarkon representative, stood in the center of Hope's bridge, its iridescent skin glowing with an intensity they hadn't seen before. "Your bravery and ingenuity have saved not just our fleet, but our entire civilization," it said, its voice filled with gratitude. "The Zarkon owe you a debt we can never fully repay." As the initial shock and elation of their escape wore off, the reality of their situation set in. Both fleets were damaged, low on power, and far from home. The journey back would be long and fraught with challenges. Over the next few weeks, humans and Zarkon worked together to repair their ships. The Zarkon's advanced technology, now functioning properly outside the void, proved invaluable in fixing Hope's overtaxed systems. In return, the humans shared their unique problem-solving skills and adaptability, traits that the Zarkon came to admire greatly. During this time, the two species learned more about each other. The humans were fascinated by the Zarkon's long history and advanced science, while the Zarkon were captivated by humanity's art, music, and diverse cultures. One evening, as they were making final preparations for the journey home, Jack found Sarah and Zalcor on the observation deck, deep in conversation. "Commander," Zalcor greeted him, "we were just discussing the implications of our encounter. This meeting between our species will change the course of history for both our worlds." Sarah nodded, her eyes shining with excitement. "The scientific and cultural exchange alone will advance both our civilizations by centuries, and there's so much more we can learn from each other." Jack smiled, but there was a hint of concern in his eyes. "It's exciting, no doubt, but it's also a big responsibility. Our worlds are very different. We'll need to be careful about how we proceed." Zalcor's skin rippled, and what they had learned was a sign of agreement. "Wise words, Commander. We have much to discuss with our respective leaders." As they began their long journey back to Earth, news of their success had already reached their home planet. The world waited with bated breath for the return of their heroes and the arrival of their new alien allies. Months passed, and finally, the blue marble of Earth came into view. As they approached, They were met by a fleet of Earth ships sent out to escort them home. "Hope, this is Earth Command." A voice crackled over the radio. "Welcome home, and please extend our welcome to our Zarkon friends." The scene that greeted them as they landed was one of jubilation. Crowds cheered, leaders from nations around the world gathered, and history was made as humans and Zarkon set foot on Earth soil together for the first time. In the days that followed, the crew of Hope were hailed as heroes. Treaties were signed, cultural exchanges were planned, and a new era of interstellar cooperation began. But amidst all the celebrations and ceremonies, Jack, Sarah, and the rest of the crew found a quiet moment to themselves. "So," Jack said, looking at his team, "was it worth it?" Yelena grinned. "Every terrifying moment." Aisha nodded enthusiastically. "I can't wait to see what we'll build together." Sarah looked out at the sky, where the first Zarkon embassy ship could be seen in orbit. "We went out there to save them," she said softly, "but I think they've saved us too. They've given us a future bigger than we ever imagined." As they stood there, watching the sun set on a world forever changed, they knew that this was not the end of their adventure, but only the beginning. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe, and the stars, once so distant, now seemed within reach. The call for help that had led them across the stars had done more than save a stranded fleet. It had opened the door to a future filled with endless possibilities, where the combined strengths of humanity and the Zarkon could take them further than either species had ever dreamed possible. As night fell, a new star seemed to twinkle extra bright in the sky. A Zarkon ship, a promise of adventures yet to come.